Hello and welcome to the Lions Roar podcast. By my count, we are here in the middle of the summer and it is episode 5. We started this adventure together a couple months ago and didn't know where it would go, but we've enjoyed having the opportunity to talk together and introduce you to some of the people around Calvary Baptist Academy and Hidden Treasures Preschool. You know, if you want to keep up to date with the podcast and make sure you always know when a new episode comes out, I know it sounds cliche if you watch YouTube videos or whatnot, but like and subscribe. If you click that subscribe button, it's not about us making any money or anything like that. It just makes sure you get notified whenever a new edition comes out, and you won't ever miss an episode that way. This podcast is available both through audio and video. So we're on YouTube, of course, and we post that always to our social media through Facebook. And then there's the audio version, which wherever you get your podcasts, if you're a Pocket Cast person or Spotify, Apple, whatever, it should post to all of those popular podcast sites. So you could add that to your playlist and click subscribe. And then on the way to school or home from school this fall, or here in the summer when you're traveling for a vacation or other things, or doing your exercise, you can put it on your playlist and hear from us at Calvary, because we hope to use this podcast just to keep you up to date with all the things that are going on, both in the preschool and the academy. And this week, our special guest is Mrs. Jennilyn Small. Jennilyn, of course, is our secondary principal. That doesn't mean she's second to anyone. It's just versus the elementary. Secondary includes our 6th grade through 12th grade. So you might say she's the West Campus principal. A few years ago, in about 2020, we opened the West Campus, the formerly Midland Christian School building there. And just this last year, Jennilyn had her first year as our principal of that facility. And so, Jennilyn, welcome to the podcast. Looking forward to getting to know you a little bit better here, or at least our audience getting to know you a little bit better. I'm sure I'll learn some things as well. But one of the things that's been kind of a trend as I talked to both Mrs. Tomko and Mr. Reese, you had some association with the school before you were an employee of the school. So tell me a little bit about your history with Calvary Baptist Academy previous to being on staff.
So I actually attended Calvary before it was Hidden Treasures. I attended kindergarten as well, and went all the way through 12th grade.
K through 12.
Yep.
So what year did you graduate high school?
2005.
2005.
So Paul and I were actually in the same class together.
So Paul Reese, I honestly knew that, but I don't remember that. Like, I don't always make that connection.
Yep.
So I graduated Calvary Baptist Academy in 1992. I'm a couple years older. So what would you say were the highlights? Obviously, I'm hoping there's highlights, because you don't typically come and work for an organization if while you were there you hated it, right? So what were the highlight as you look back, and how did the Lord use Calvary Baptist Academy in your life as a high school student, elementary student, just as a young person?
School was really integral into my salvation testimony. I had Mrs. Dumont as a kindergarten teacher, actually.
Yeah, my kids had Mrs. Dumont. She was there for a long time.
She's phenomenal. Yes, yeah. I loved having her as a teacher, and still to this day, she's a friend. And she had shared that story at school, and we had heard it at church as well. And I was really excited to go to school and get saved at school, but I did end up getting saved with my mom at home. Yeah. But having that conversation about what we were learning at school was a part of that testimony. But I would say, too, just along the way, the spiritual formation, just having other adults in my corner that were encouraging me to do what was right. I didn't always do what was right, but they encouraged me to do so.
Yeah. So would you say that you left Calvary Baptist Academy with a passion to become an educator?
No.
Okay. I didn't know the answer to that question. So
actually, my senior year, I had made 3 I would nevers, very publicly, actually, and it's kind of a joke now. I had said I would never become a teacher, I would never get married, and I would never attend Bob Jones University, because I just thought that was what the lame Christian school graduates did, and that was, not going to be my story. And ironically and graciously, God has reversed all 3 of those nevers.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, in multiple ways, but we think when we're younger, somehow if we do what others have done before us, that somehow that's boring or somehow that's, I don't know, it's
cliche.
It's not good enough or whatever kind of a thing. And we don't, maybe when you get older, you start to realize that maybe there's a reason that so many took that path, and it wasn't because it was just easy or the least resistance, but maybe because there was something good about it or had value to it or some benefit. I ended up, this isn't about that, but I ended up at Bob Jones University primarily because the people around me that had gone there had a really strong influence in my life. And so I said, well, kind of opposite of you, it wasn't like I'll never go there. It was more of, well, it worked for them, I guess I'll go there, because I didn't really have a strong desire to go to a particular school at the time. And so I wanted to go to Christian school, and my parents had an influence in that too, financially. If I went to Christian school, they helped pay for it, especially that first year. And so I said, hey, it worked for them, so I ended up there. But seeing how the Lord used it in their lives was an indicator to me that, okay, I'll do that. And then the Lord did. And in similar other areas, I won't go into this field or that field because of someone around me, whether it's a parent or someone, I want to do a different path. And yet realizing as you get older that that's a good path, because ultimately if it's God's will, for sure. But oftentimes the reason the people before me chose it was because it had value. It was good. And so learning those lessons in life. I didn't know you were pledged to never get married, though.
Yes.
That's a big one.
So I initially had started off at SVSU for 2 years before I transferred to Bob Jones. So when I came into Bob Jones, I was coming in as a junior at that point. But because of transferring, I was short some credits here and there. And I had changed my major and all those things. So I ended up staying for an extra semester. And that was the semester that my now husband and I became friends at that point.
The infamous Joel Small.
The infamous Joel Small,
athletic director. We'll get to that later, but...
which is another hilarious never that God has ironically and graciously turned around in my life. I had said initially when we got married, he was working a different job. I had said, you could never work at a school with me. We can never work together. And now we're, I think, on year 10 of working together. Sure. So... But I've learned my lesson to not say never anymore. So
I was at your wedding.
Yep. It was here in Midland.
Somehow I got invited, and that was a great event. In fact, this is like fun fact or whatever. This year, this summer, right now, I just bought a treadmill.
Oh boy!
So, and you're probably wondering how this has anything to do with anything, but I'm going to tell you. So I bought a treadmill. I got it off Facebook Marketplace, and I'm getting ready to run a 5K.
Oh.
But I hate running.
Same.
So if I go outside to run, all I see is like how much farther it is to the next corner, and it just feels like torture. So I got a treadmill, and I can watch the little videos, the iFit videos that the Nordic Track has, and it like this guy talks to me and tells me how great I'm doing, and like tells me all about whatever country we're in and all that. And so I'm just getting started, but I am going to run the 5K because I need to get in shape, need to lose some weight. But I made that first pledge to run a 5K for the very first time ever was at your wedding reception.
Oh, boy.
There was a group of us sitting around talking about how out of shape we were and all this. And someone said they were going to run a 5K at the end of the summer. What's your wedding anniversary?
June of 2012.
But what it was, I knew it was
6/30/2012.
Yeah, we had it was until I just was the timeline because it was late June, and I had until I think it was September 4th. Like I think it was like the Labor Day weekend.
Okay.
And so we made a pledge together. We're going to do this together, a group of us. And so then I was stuck. And
no
so
pressure.
I did the couch to 5K, and I got in pretty good shape for all things considered for me.
There you go.
And so now I'm going back to this beginning of this summer, and I'm remembering back to that wedding and that pledge. So you played an integral part of my health.
You're welcome.
So anyway, that's nothing to do with...
I had no idea.
Yeah, there you go. That was the impetus. But so you and Joel married, and then you went off to North Carolina.
So I was living there in North Carolina before we were married, and then he moved out there, got a different job, and then eventually he ended up working at the school with me as well.
So tell me a little bit about that. You say the school. So what were you doing in North Carolina?
So it was a Christian school about an hour east of Raleigh, and I was teaching middle school and high school English and science at that time, and he taught elementary classes, and it was great. It was a great fit. We had our oldest daughter there, and then we had kind of started to feel the pull to come live closer to family. So Joel's from Washington State. I'm from Michigan. North Carolina is pretty far from both of those places. So when we had our second child, we decided now's the time. No, Washington was not an affordable option, and it still isn't really. But we kind of said we're gonna move. And at that point, about a year prior to our actual move date, Mr. Reese had approached me about coming to work at Calvary.
Yeah, he was the administrator of the school.
At that time, He was. And I had said no because the timing didn't feel right. It felt selfish at that time. Like it was for me to move, not for my family. It maybe wasn't what was best. So we waited out one more year. And then when we had Jenna, my second.
I remember those conversations. And
It was back and forth. And I really could have been convinced. But just something said, wait. The Lord's voice told us to wait. So we waited 1 year. And then when we did move, there were no jobs available at the school at the time. So we spent the summer, we moved up here in June, and we spent the summer applying for all kinds of jobs. And we lived with my parents for a year, which is a very humbling experience when you have your own kids to move back in with your parents. But I'm thankful for that year.
And my wife and I did that for some months. That's about all we did.
We had some friends that are in the military that told us you can do anything for a year. And so we kind of stuck to that. And it was almost a year to the day that we moved out of their house into our own house. And by that point, we were both employed at the school part-time. So
Sure. Yeah, it's a unique thing. I obviously am a graduate of Calvary Academy, so coming back, my story's a little different. I came on pastoral staff and then helped in the school kind of side, and then ended up where we are today. But you came into the school. We just hired for next year, a couple of teachers that are graduates, gone off to college, and now stepping into the classroom. And it's fun to bring graduates back. We have a number in both the West Campus and then in the rest of the school that are graduates. And that's just kind of a unique perspective that you have. And then, you have that also unique perspective where you were a graduate of the school, where you came back to teach at the school, and now you have kids in the school.
Yep.
And so you kind of get that fuller picture of what's going on at Calvary Baptist Academy, some of the blessings, the benefits, but even, some of the struggles and the challenges. And you're well aware of all of those things, and yet we see God's grace in our families through all that. So you were a teacher at Calvary Baptist Academy for how long before you stepped into the role as the principal?
I was part-time for a couple years, and then I transitioned to full-time. I team taught with Joel in 5th grade for 1 year, and then I transitioned to West Campus, so that would have been early 2020. When we moved to West Campus full-time at the middle school, high school. So entirely, this is my 9th year of teaching. So I did 8 years, but some of that was part-time and some of that was full-time before becoming an administrator.
And you have your master's in?
I do. It's in educational administration.
Okay. And so you were preparing for that next level ahead of time and got open that door. What would you say were some of the highlights of classroom teaching, especially here at West Campus? And like you said, that 2020 COVID time. Talk a little bit about that transition and to where we are today.
That was wild. The transition from the spring of 2020 to the fall of 2020, taking on a new campus. And if I'm remembering correctly, we delayed our school year by a week just to get all moved in.
It might have been even longer, but at least a week. It might have been 2 weeks, but it was at least a week we added to get the building ready.
And some of that was just we were moving in desks and furniture and books and all of that.
Yeah, you got to remember the building, though it had been a school, had been like a K through 12 school. Right. So you had classrooms that had they were set up for kindergarten, and we were doing high school English. Short sinks and the short desks and the short countertops and all those things. So we were transforming the space to be used for junior high and high school students. So we needed a little extra time to get. It's
kind of incredible the amount of work that got done.
And it was COVID, and so there were some extra expectations and things that we just needed a little bit of adaptation time, I guess you could
Yeah.
say. So yeah, that's what you came
But
into.
it was great, like having the extra space and just really being able to utilize a second gym and a cafeteria and just some of the other benefits of having a second campus and it being so close that kids can walk between the two.
Yeah.
All those things were great.
It's crazy because when we moved in, you thought, man, we got all this space. And to go from then to now and think about going back, like if we were to try to take, hey, we're going to consolidate it back to the main campus, like where would we even
really
how
hard.
did that work? Like how did that all fit?
That would be really hard.
But obviously we've added students. That's part of it. But just, I think it's kind of like anything else. If you have the space, you feel like at your home, your storage, you're like, we need more storage. But no matter how much storage you have, you seem to
still
fill
need
it
more.
and start using that space. And we're blessed now because we do have like a dedicated art space and dedicated music space, at both campuses now, and then the second gymnasium and cafeteria, like all those spaces that we didn't have before. And now it'd be really challenging. It wouldn't be impossible because, God would make it work, but to go back to not having those things. And so, yeah, it's been a blessing. And, it's not the point of this podcast today. We're learning about you, but just a reminder to our family, school family and such, even financially, how God provided. When it came time to renovate, there were some generous donations that were given to renovate the campus and to pay it. The cost of the building, roughly $1.5 million that was a steal. Really, it's a $6-8 million property at that time, if not more. For $1.5 million, and having that money available because of just the Lord's blessing and different things. It's just cool to see we're not sitting on debt and all those things, but God provided. And that's kind of the chaotic time, though, the transition that you show up at West Campus. And so what were some of the highlights there in the classroom?
So I think probably my favorite part about being a classroom teacher are the relationships that you build with the students, and just being able to see them on the soccer field, on the basketball court, in the robotics lab, and just all these other places outside of the classroom, and being able to really see the whole child, not just this is this one student who's in this one class of mine, but just being able to get to know them outside of the classroom, and even opportunities for discipleship. I have been able to work through some Bible studies and different things with students, and have them in my home for different events and activities. And then that kind of comes full circle, because then since I work with the older students and I have younger children, they're then turning around and getting to know my kids and pouring into my own children. So some of those connections.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great age. Obviously, God puts us in the right place at the right time. I had a few episodes back, we met our teachers of the year, and we talked a little bit about that reality of, I could never be a preschool teacher, like in that classroom. But then those preschool teachers looking and saying, I could never be a high school teacher, right?
Exactly.
And how at each phase, God puts us there because of the gifts and talents He gives us, in the heart that He gives us for certain age groups, and just the capacity to love those kids at those ages well. And I think I can't imagine any more exciting age, but then I look at each age and I go, well, okay, there's excitement at every level.
Yep.
But in that junior high and high school, just seeing the fruit start to be produced and God starting to prune their lives, and they get a vision for what God could use them to do. Their talents and abilities start to become clear for many of them, whether that's in particular academic endeavors, whether that's athletics, whether that's through fine arts and robotics, like all the different options that students have to get involved with at that age. And they start to figure out who they are and their niche. Obviously, their identity in Christ, we really emphasize with them. But then their uniqueness, that God's made them with a purpose. He has a plan for their life. And I just think it's so fun to see that happen for students, and then to help them to discover that, even because for everybody, it's not so obvious. Some kids struggle with those, that age group of what am I supposed to do, and what are my gifts and whatnot, and helping them navigate that conversation. And it's just a fun age. So now as the high school principal, you get the fun of I know you still teach a class,
I do.
But also navigating then helping teachers in their classrooms, getting them the tools that they need, supporting them well. But then also, maybe you didn't know this was coming a little bit, but discipline, right?
Yes.
That's always a part of it.
It's everyone's favorite
it's
thing.
not the most exciting thing. We don't typically, highlight the podcast with discipline, but the reality is that in junior high and high school, kids get in trouble. There's demerits and there's different things like that, but it's also discipleship.
Yep.
Just tell me a little bit about that this first year, like navigating that conversation. How has that been a challenge, and where have you seen blessings out of burdens maybe?
So I think, interestingly, being involved in a school makes you a better teacher or a better parent. And then being a parent also maybe helps you also as your role as teacher or as administrator. And I think some of that has come into the conversation often with, yes, you as a student may have made a wrong choice and we're going to have to issue some demerits, but the broader conversation of let's kind of delve into this, like I can kind of take from my mom toolbox and say, hey, let's look at where this came from, where's this attitude coming from, or where's this, wrong choice coming from, and how can we delve into a different opportunity?
Get into the heart of the issue.
Yeah. And so being able to have those conversations this year has been stretching for me too, and learning how to navigate some of that carefully. And
that's hard.
I think I've gleaned a lot from watching you do it, and just the way that you approach it is not accusational. You ask a lot of questions, and so I've tried to kind of take that approach too.
Sure.
And ask questions and kind of get a lay of the land, and then from there, sometimes even gather wisdom from other people. And
I've learned you don't have to be in a hurry. Like it seems like you always feel like we got to resolve this right now.
There's a lot of pressure to resolve it right away. Parents want an answer, or kids want an answer.
The more serious of an issue, right? Option on it, and but there's time to get it right. And then I think back, just exciting. Like you think, what are the highlights? And I go back and there's highlights around events, like, as a teaching drama, there's highlights around a production, or there's highlights around activities or kids that receive certain awards and things. But as crazy as it sounds, like highlights for me are some of those discipline things where I had a student that we had to expel, and then they came back the next year. There were some hoops they had to jump through, and wanted to make sure that they were wanting to come back for the right reasons, and it wasn't the parent just wanting them, all that kind of thing. And they did. So they left their junior year, they returned their senior year. And I just remember at senior chapel, that student was the keynote speaker that they chose and gave one of the most heartfelt, best presentations at a senior chapel. And today they're living for the Lord. Their kids are in our preschool now, and they're just going on and doing. And they're active in their church, and just there was change and transformation. And I don't know what God would have done, or how He could have used other means, but having to make that decision discipline wise and hold the line and say, you can't continue this semester.
Right.
And
those are hard conversations.
But you always say, but we hope you'll come back and that we can.
And we hope that there's a change.
But, the students are here and right. And, the is that ever going to happen kind of a thing? And you even know that the likelihood is probably low once you have to make that break for some reason. And yet God uses those things. And in this case, He did. And I can share multiples where there were discipline scenarios where they were hard, and you don't want to have to do those things and have those hard conversations, but you do, and then you see God use it in the transformation. And so I'm not going to name names, but some of my greatest memories are unfortunately, kids that were in your office for not the greatest reasons, right? And then there are others that you have those great stories too, the kids that just early on, they love the Lord and they want to serve the Lord, and you get to be a part of that too. And so they're both exciting. What would you say? We talked about Joel. So Joel is the athletic director at the school currently and teaches in junior, senior high school. What would you say are some of the challenges and blessings of being alongside of your husband in that position?
Yeah, I think so. I was talking to him about that just recently. We were talking through, what went great, what maybe didn't go so well this year. And I think where we both struggle is it's kind of a blessing and a curse, the desire to serve, but also needing to draw that line and say, okay, but now I have to have some family time.
Sure.
And so navigating that a little bit, just with his role
When
and
you're
with
both
my
in
role,
the same place,
it overlaps quite a bit.
Yeah.
Or I'll have an event in the evening, or he'll have events in the evening, just naturally with his role that comes often.
Yeah.
So trying to carve out and be intentional about that family time, and still prioritizing each other, and not letting our own kids be the kind of afterthought. We still need to make them priority. So
yeah, we had to navigate that as a family too, and a reminder that there's seasons.
Yep.
So not everything is for all 12 months. And so kind of navigating that too, and reminding yourself and those patterns and such. But Jennilyn, we appreciate you, and you've been a blessing here at the West Campus. And it's exciting to watch you move from classroom teacher, and then you were the registrar of sorts, and did transcripts and worked with our student information system and helped all of our teachers and all those kinds of administrative kind of things, and now stepping into this role. And so I know you're just going to keep getting better and better at it.
hopefully.
And we're excited about what the Lord's doing at Calvary Baptist Academy. We're excited for this year's graduating class, and looking to see what God's going to do with them in the fall as they step into college, and into some of them the armed forces, and some into trades and whatnot. Whatever God has for them, we're cheering for them and watching those recent grads take those next steps. And it's fun to watch grads, as I said, come back. Some are going to be coming back. We'll meet some of them here later in the summer here and into the fall as they come back to teach, as we meet our new teachers. I've got a couple returning to teach. And we would love to see you as a family tell your story. And so we're going to make opportunity for you to share sort of your Calvary story here in the near future. And there'll be a link where you can just kind of fill out and share your testimony, so to speak, but a specific testimony about how Calvary was used in your life in some way to put you on the path that you're on, and just kind of give a shout out. And it's fun to hear these stories of some of our administrators and the ones that have been here at Calvary and now what they're doing. But we want to know what you're doing. And if you're an alumni and the Lord used Calvary in a way to be an encouragement to you, we want to hear about it. So be looking for that opportunity here. There'll be a link with this podcast where we'll have opportunity for you to share those stories. And we'll look forward to learning more about how God's used Calvary in your life, and maybe even in the life of your family now, if you're a parent. So thanks again for listening and joining us for another episode of the Lions Roar podcast. We're looking forward to joining you again here in the very near future. As I said, we'll get to meet some of our new teachers as we come back to school, and we'll also have opportunity to hear from some parents of some of our graduates and hear how they found Calvary Baptist Academy to be a great fit for their family and some of the blessings they've experienced. So look forward to those episodes coming up here in the very near future. Have a great day. God bless.